Newly uncovered emails are shedding more light on Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with his convicted accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. NBC's Hallie Jackson has details.
New insight into the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell from a trove of purported emails, more than 18,000 published by Bloomberg News, which suggests Maxwell and Epstein were closer in many respects than either publicly admitted. In her July interview with the Deputy Attorney General, Maxwell, Epstein's convicted co-conspirator, recounts asking Epstein about the initial investigation into him.
He said, not to worry. He didn't say, he didn't share. I wasn't part of it at all.
The Bloomberg report suggests she counseled Epstein after that. At one point, he asked her advice on what charge to negotiate in his 2008 plea agreement. I suppose lewd and lascivious conduct, she responded. NBC News has not independently obtained or verified the emails. Bloomberg says they were authenticated using cryptographic and metadata analysis and corroboration with external sources. The outlet says one email included a detailed spreadsheet of 2,000 gifts and payments, like, quote, lingerie and chocolates, some for teenage girls who later lodged sexual abuse complaints. Except for 3 minor instances, Bloomberg says the emails do not otherwise mention President Trump, who has said his relationship with Epstein ended in the early 2000s. The White House calling it, in part, stupid fake news. Maxwell's attorney has not responded to NBC's request for comment. And for the first time, revelations Maxwell and Epstein were going through a fertility treatment together, according to Bloomberg, years after she said they broke up. In 2005, Bloomberg says Maxwell emailed Epstein detailed instructions on a sperm donation, adding, "You can do the sample at home."
All right. NBC's Hallie Jackson with that report. Joining us now, one of the co-authors of the report, senior legal reporter for Bloomberg News, Ava Benny-Morrison. Ava, great work here. A lot of interesting details coming out in these emails. But what's the big takeaway that they reveal?
These emails really shed new light on the partnership between Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Over the years, we've only heard a few times, in her own words, Maxwell described the relationship with Epstein. She said she was a one-time girlfriend, but mainly a property manager who faded from his life in the early 2000s. That was a critical period for Epstein because he was facing child sexual abuse allegations in Florida. She said she wasn't in the loop about those negotiations he was having with prosecutors. These emails and our reporting show that he did in fact keep her in the loop. He asked her what charge she would prefer that he plead guilty to while he was locked in these negotiations with prosecutors. It also shows that she helped distribute more than $1.8 million in gifts to victims, to young women, to politically connected figures and business associates as well. It also reveals a new closeness that we didn't previously know existed between the pair. They were discussing a shared fertility procedure, including in the lead up to him reporting to prison.
And she was trying to have his baby.
We can only go on what we've seen in the emails, but they're discussing the instructions to a fertility procedure and him fulfilling his part of that arrangement.
So Maxwell, obviously very much a figure back in the news, just had this interview with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche a few weeks ago, then was transferred to a much more milder prison in Texas. What do these emails tell us about her and her credibility in terms of what we've learned that she's told investigators?
There have long been questions around her credibility, and these emails certainly add to those questions. It raises doubts about the truthfulness of some of her recent statements, particularly around those negotiations in Florida in the mid-2000s. She told Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche in July that Epstein told her not to worry about it, that she wasn't really part of what was going on. But the emails seem to suggest that he turned to her for advice and she was involved in some of the strategy behind that.
So also talk to us about every time we hear anything new Epstein related, there's always a hankering for, well, are there names there? Are there new in terms of new people in the mix? Did we find any of that there?
Or
as I tossed my pen across the desk?
There's some names that come up in the inbox that we know already had associations with Jeffrey Epstein. So in particular, we know that Ghislaine Maxwell helped organise visits to his private island in the Caribbean by tech billionaires, and that there were attempts to organise seats on board his private jet as well. For example, there's an email where she is trying to organise a visit by Google co-founder Sergey Brin to Little St James in late 2000.
Interesting. We have our Capitol Hill correspondent standing by in Washington, Ali Vitale, and she has a question. Ali?
Hey, thank you for doing this reporting. I think that this is obviously a live ball issue on Capitol Hill as the Oversight Committee is looking into various new avenues that they might pursue. How might this factor into that ongoing investigation? To me, the first thing that I think of, and I wonder your take, is the way that this once again calls into question Ghislaine Maxwell's credibility. It was already something that was openly questioned by the Speaker of the House, but I think that it could add pressure to lawmakers who need to ask Todd Blanche, for example, why would you go do a 2-day deposition with someone who obviously hasn't been perfectly truthful throughout the time that she's been in the legal hot seat over her dealings and relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? So talk about both Maxwell's credibility and then the way that this might factor into these ongoing investigations.
It certainly adds to the questions around her credibility. It was very unusual for the Deputy Attorney General to sit down for this 2-day interview with Maxwell, but she had offered to tell him whatever she knew about the Epstein investigation, what she didn't know, and her attorney had said publicly around the time that they would welcome any relief from the Trump administration, whether that looks like a pardon or a commutation, we don't know. In terms of the ongoing investigations and the calls for release around more files, we've had a steady drip of information over the past few years about Epstein, and this is just another piece of the puzzle, and it certainly increases interest in seeing what other information there is out there about the Epstein case.
All right.
We should note that the the UK ambassador to the US lost his job, was fired in part because of connections to Epstein and covered by those at Bloomberg.
There you go. Great reporting. The new report is available online right now. And senior legal reporter for Bloomberg News, Ava Benny Morrison, thank you very much. Come back. We'd love to continue following your coverage. And the host of Way Too Early, MSNBC senior Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale, thank you as well.